What's going on, bowling fans? I'm here with two gentlemen who really, let's be honest, they don't really need any introduction, right? Like, you guys know who these guys are, right?
Hi, people.
Stu Williams, Chris Barnes. This is Growing Brooklyn. These gentlemen have been kind enough to come to Austin and see the digs, CHQ. First things first, every time we got to go over this. It's called Going Brooklyn. I grew up calling it a jersey. I feel like my dad may have led me astray, but we're going to see what these guys, Brooklyn or Jersey, or something else.
For me, it's Brooklyn because I grew up in England, so I didn't really understand why it was called a Brooklyn or whatever.
So peer pressure.
Crossover.
So peer pressure.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I had one guy, an action bowler from New York. He told me that it was a Cali. Chris Viali, he says it was a Cali.
Cali, that's a new one.
Because he said that all the West Coast guys would always throw it in the Brooklyn against him when they needed it. So he called it a Cali.
That's a new one for me. Brooklyn?
It was always Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill O'Neill, if you're watching, you're my fellow Pennsylvanian. I appreciate you being Team Jersey, but we'll move on nonetheless. This is going to be a great show, and you know why? Because both of these guys are professional commentators. Like, they are big time, so you can't let us down.
Well, I'm not a professional. I do it for free.
Yes, but if you guys missed I think it was Indianapolis Open, that Tommy and Stu were commentating. It's on our site. You really need to take a look at it. Do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, well, me and Tommy were kind of discussing the Norm Duke act.
Yes.
And
it's a good way to put it.
And Norm, I mean, one of the probably 5 greatest bowlers of all time, does tend to have an issue with the approach when he misses a spare, rather than having an issue with Norm. And I guess if I missed, a spare once every 2 or 3 years, I'd probably blame the approach too. And me and Tommy were kind of talking about how, once you get to a certain level, every bad shot's the approach's fault. Right. And, if Norm misses, then he's going to blame the approach. And sure as shit, Norm went up and...
Like on cue.
Flagged the 10 pin and then started slamming his foot on the approach and doing the drag back. And then,
It could not have been scripted any better.
And then the very next frame, he left it again. And Tommy literally said he would bet his entire life on the fact that Norm was going to spare it and he'd probably double tap it.
Yeah, not only make it, but double tap it.
Yep.
And sure enough, Norm went up and double tapped it.
And that's why Norm has 40 titles, because he's Norm. Yeah.
Because he doesn't, he doesn't get upset and blame himself for missing the single pin. He blames the approach.
It's the approach's fault, and then he can move on.
Mm-hmm.
Different approach the next frame.
Yep.
And you've done quite a bit of commentating on the PBA tour.
Here and there.
Here and there. So you have the good voice for it, right? Like.
I have a voice for it.
I think you have the voice for it.
Well,
right?
I appreciate it. I'm not sure everybody feels that way, but I'm looking for more support on it.
We were just talking about how Long Island might not be the biggest fan of Chris Barnes. Not sure why, but so you're both Texans now, right? Do you claim to be Texans? You've been here for quite some time, right?
Yeah, almost. See, my boys are almost 17, so we've been here like 18, almost 19 years. But I grew up in Kansas, so I'm kind of a Midwestern.
Okay, so you're not a Texan. Close.
Yeah.
Ish.
I mean, I'm definitely not a Texan. I'm barely even an American.
It's okay. We'll claim you.
Well, that's nice.
Even though you don't like Texas
easy
as
with
much
the we.
as FloBowling will claim you. Yeah. Chris, not so much.
I'm the FloBowling ambassador.
Yeah.
I won the tournament.
He did. He sure did. But so Texas, the adjustment from Phoenix.
I literally moved because you guys were here.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some extra cash that you guys gave me. It was nice.
Barnes is going to move down to Austin. It's going to be a big party. We have Wes here.
We do. And then we have the entirety of the PWBA tour here.
Yes, we sure do. All right. Well, let's get into it. So you guys met up at the Japan event in 2015. Chris, why don't you tell us how that went?
Well, my memory is probably a little different than Stu's, but yeah, that was one of the better moments in the last 5 or 6 years for sure.
I think you mentioned that what he did to you was rude.
It was kind of rude. I didn't realize when I missed in the second frame that I might as well leave. But that was kind of how it went down. I think I went strike spare, and then I could have got back on the plane and gone home.
Yep. So if you don't know exactly what we're talking about, they met up in 2015 in the Japan event. Barnes took him out in a semifinal match, right?
Yeah,
with a 300.
Second seed. Yeah.
Yeah, in the semi. So it's really, we planned that so we could get them together and have this moment where they were living through the rudeness, if you will. Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty nice game, but it wasn't the first time he beat me on TV. So.
It was the most profitable one for me, though.
And perhaps maybe the last? Or maybe you're
I
the
think
better
pretty much, and I was actually shocked when Chris won in Lubbock, because the previous 2 times he won the title, he beat me on the show. So I was like, I was kind of thinking that like he almost needed to start helping me to make the show.
Right.
So that he could win again.
Yeah.
But I mean, he managed to get over that. So.
Okay. Well,
good for him.
I'm glad that we brought that up. Wanted to make sure that we cleared the air. Anything 4 years ago. But you're going to be in Japan.
I am, yeah.
What?
Chris seems more excited about that than me.
Yeah. Anything specifically that you're looking forward to with it, like, or either one of you? You've been to the Japan event. Like, what do you enjoy about that event?
I like always enjoy experiencing like the different cultures and the different like just the different respects that they have for the game around the world. It's just it's like it's a different tournament. Like, we're gonna bowl in a bowling center with wood lanes, and like the condition of the wood it's kind of amazingly good. I mean, considering how long the lanes have been there, and like how good you'd never find a bowling center like that in the States or in Europe where the wood is such good condition. So it's actually it's a very interesting thing, because it's not something that we can really practice to prepare for that event. So I mean, we're bowling on the dragon pattern, but we're bowling on good condition wood lanes.
Sure.
Well, I don't even know where I could find any bad condition wood lanes right now. So there isn't really, like, usually, and I know Chris is like this as well, like usually we'd have like some preparation time. I mean, obviously wherever you go the lanes are going to play differently, but at least get an idea of, you know, how you might attack it or whatever. But like with the wood lane surface, it's almost, for me, the preparation's been like watching like some of the FloBowling coverage from last year, and like kind of watching what they did last year rather than anything else, because there isn't really a way to prepare to bowl on that kind of surface.
What do you see, like, when you bowl synthetic versus wood? Like, what's the big difference for anybody who's
early friction, for sure. And then in that particular center, it doesn't really hook very much from the right either, which lots of older wood centers didn't at different times, but somewhere along the line, some cuts or whatever. But from right at 7 or 8 in that place, they don't hook a whole lot, and so everybody has early friction, and everybody has the relatively tight down lane, and so everybody's kind of got my bar reaction when we go there. So
I think I mean, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I spoke to Dom a little bit about it, because the last 2 times we bowled in Tokyo, Dom's actually been the top seed both times, I think, or he's bowled in the title match both times, and Dom loves it. He's like, he bowls against guys like, I mean, I'd be surprised. I don't even know if Carl Tripp's ever bowled on a wood lane. Some of the younger guys,
probably
like
not.
They might not have even bowled. Like, so for them, it's definitely going to be a different experience. And Kyle did really well last year. I think Dom actually beat Kyle in the final last year.
It went. Dom won it, but Kyle was
like
second.
A few of the guys, it's for me, the big thing is shooting corner pins, because you kind of have to like readjust what you want to do, because going across the lane can sometimes be a little bit more challenging, and like, you think that your ball goes straight until you bowl on the surface. It's a bit like, it's almost like when you shoot spares on a short pattern for me. When you go across the lane, like, it can kind of check, and then you realize quite how far you're away from the 10 pin when you're going all the way across the lane. It only has to check a little bit, and then it's not even close to it at the other end. So I in general don't really practice spares like in the practice session, like, because, you know, I shoot spares a lot and I'm a pretty decent spare shooter, so it's not something I really focus on. But in the practice session there, I'll definitely spend like 5 or 10 minutes, you know, trying to just see where it seems like a better situation to practice, you know, bowling spares.
Well, neither one of you are any kind of stranger to international bowling. You know, you've been on Team USA forever. You got Weber Cup, which I'm sure you guys can shit talk a little bit to each other about coming up. What's your favorite international event?
My favorite international event, well, it's the Weber Cup, and that might be my favorite event, period. But if we're talking about internet like individual events,
Yeah.
I think for me anyway, all the events you have success at are always going to be the ones that you like the most.
That's the right answer.
I mean, I really like going to Vienna when we used to go there. I know Chris liked that one. And Thailand's been pretty nice to me over time. And I mean, but I think the one that is probably not that many people know about, one of my favorite places to go is San Marino.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one, but obviously Japan, for some of the reasons it says,
Yeah.
I've had some success in Japan and Korea, but Malaysia, and I haven't been there in quite a while now, but because of what Stu mentioned before about culture and how they treat it, and you're on the front page of the paper when their big tournaments are
that's awesome.
around, and it's a different feeling when you're there from a respect standpoint and from how important the competition is.
Funny story. I remember one of the British people going to bowl. I can't remember who it was, but they said that they went into KFC, and like the paper placemats that they get,
Yes.
it had Shalin's face on the paper placemat in KFC.
Wow.
So Shalin Zulkifli, one of the most famous probably the most famous Malaysian bowler.
So you're saying you want us to kind of print something similar, get them in all the Whataburgers, if you will, down in
but that would
Texas?
probably be Jacob right now.
Okay.
Because he's the one who's on.
Maybe
We can-
fish and
but-
chips,
but-
maybe
but-
Long
but-
John
Yeah,
Silver.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
about
Long
to
John
say-
Silver's. There you go.
I was
There
about
you
to
go.
say if it's Whataburger though, I think that's Simonson's territory. He's a
he's
huge
Texas guy.
Whataburger.
Yeah.
But Long John Silver's is a good call. Fish and
Yeah.
chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a stretch to call that fish and chips.
It's a real.
I mean,
big
if
stretch,
you're in Pflugerville,
that's P-Town.
yeah,
That's P-Town.
Bahadi's is where the fish and chips is at.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Hardee's had fish and chips.
Bahadi's.
Oh, Bahardi's.
Yeah.
That sounds
I mean,
like
the
somewhere I'm
place
not
on the
gonna go.
outside of the sign says chicken and lounge, but it does really good fish and chips.
Pflugerville, Texas, folks. That's where you want to
Yeah,
be.
just off 685.
That's where you want to be. Wes is his neighbor. You can go hang out with both of them.
Yep, just around the corner.
And that's where he's taking you for dinner tonight.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
Hardee's.
hoping we'd be able to get some good quality English food while I was here.
Some chicken and lounge.
Yeah.
chicken and lounge.
Chicken.
So, moving on from the chicken and lounge.
Lots of dominoes being played as well.
Lots of donuts. Weber Cup. You guys, yeah, I'm just going to let you guys go. About it. Shit talk it. Let's go.
Well, I mean, Kyle's kind of opened it up. I mean, like the shit talking didn't work out too good for us last year, so.
Okay.
I mean,
You were funny.
it was funny.
It was funny.
So, so going back, the last time that Chris had bowled the Weber Cup, we'd had like the equivalent of the Miracle in Medina. We had the comeback of all comebacks, and Dom won, and it was a very funny picture from my point of view.
Yeah.
And Dom, it was taken because on the Weber Cup the lane is actually raised, so if you fall off the side of the lane, it's going to hurt because
Yep.
it's probably like two to 3 feet raised
don't want
from
that
the
to
crowd.
happen, no.
Well, there was a camera down there, like shooting up, and Dom had jumped when he'd thrown the shot, and you could see the entire American team underneath.
Right.
So Chris's face wasn't particularly peachy,
Right.
because he'd just messed it up in the 9th frame.
Gotcha.
So he was quite angry, shall we say. So for the Weber Cup this year, we'd won the next 3 years when Chris wasn't around. And in our defense, we'd actually campaigned for Chris to come back because we wanted it to be a bit more competitive.
Right. Okay.
So
See what's happening right now?
So we actually got T-shirts printed with a picture about this big of Chris,
Oh, man.
and it said, "Welcome back, Chris."
Why didn't you?
The front of it
why did
said
you bring
"Welcome
this?
back."
Yes.
So they'll come walking out on the stage. We're
Yeah.
taking our practice session. They're coming up for theirs. They come, hey, welcome back. And that's kind of cute. And then they all turn around.
And what did it have? He
And
conveniently
had that
left
face
off.
where I was, or whatever,
So
disappointed, sour, just
Right.
lost, bitter
Not,
beer
what did
face.
you put? Not peachy.
yeah,
Not
he wasn't
Not peachy.
he wasn't super happy about that.
Disgruntled.
That's a good one.
So
Yeah.
Kyle had been on 2 straight beatdowns.
Yes.
So how he managed to get to a 3rd Weber Cup, I think only his hair knows. And
Hope you're watching, Kyle.
hey, bro. And so Kyle was still, well, I won so many points. Yeah, but dude, you lost like 19-10. It doesn't really matter how many you won. But anyway, so he managed to survive the cull. Everybody else went, but Kyle stayed, and then he bowled. Him and Anthony both bowled extremely well last year.
Yeah.
Now Chris bowled. He bowled pretty well, and Tommy, he was a little rough, and that's why when it got to the end, when Tommy started to talk a little smack at me and Dom, we kind of were pretty quick to tell him that, dude, you actually bowled worse than we did.
He did win more points, though.
Yeah.
He won, which was the only part that actually keeps track.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
So you're back.
So Chris is back.
He's back.
Yeah.
I really rookie mistake not bringing that T-shirt in for this.
We actually signed him and gave him to the people in the crowd because they thought it was quite good fun. And I think we gave one to Chris. I don't think it was something he kept as a memento.
I doubt it made it.
It's like a towel.
Back home.
Now for me, I probably would have kept it if I was him. I might have brought him. Maybe that was your lucky charm.
There we go.
He's done a majority of the shit talking at this point. Anything to say about the Weber Cup?
Well, there was only one team that won.
Right.
And
I had to give him the opportunity. I had to lay that out.
No, it's fine.
It's fine.
He's got Kyle.
He'd had a nice run for a little while. Yeah. As much as Kyle seems to be bent on talking, there won't be much room for any of the rest of us or any need.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, Kyle's digging his own grave when he shoots 163 the first
Kyle
game.
apologist is now what we're going to become, I think.
And to be fair, we don't really need to hit back at Kyle very much because the English people are kind of lighting him up. So we'll see. I mean,
but we do get to come back to home.
Yeah.
Home turf for the first time ever.
Yeah, and where is it?
It'll be in Las Vegas,
Las
Mandalay Bay.
Yep.
So hopefully, anytime you change venues, whether it's inside England or not, you're hoping you get, enough crowd and
well, Vegas.
It'd be interesting to see. We have a lot of plans. We've had a lot of people talking about plans. We'll see how many of them actually show up and come through with them. If so, it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, Vegas loves you guys, so yeah.
I mean,
we're a lot cheaper than the shows.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's going to be good. Like I'm excited by it. I think it's the natural growth of the event to hopefully keep going back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
We've had a pretty nice home in England, especially in the Metrodome. In Barnsley, we've had a lot of people come out, and Chris has even got the Team USA. There's his own English people who cheer for the Americans, which is very odd.
We're so lovable.
But they had,
how could we?
But they
how
had,
could you not?
But they had 4 years of pain, so they finally had something to cheer for this year.
Are you saying they're pity cheers? Is that what you're saying?
No, they were just back then. It kind of started because, they wanted to be on the winning side once in a while.
Okay.
I think,
See
and then
see what he did there?
I
You
did.
gonna take that? You're just gonna let it? You're just,
he wasn't around for a lot of those beatdowns. Actually,
I've bowled the last 6 and we've won 4 times, so I'm okay with it. And if you look at the statistics, kind of think we're still winning.
We're gonna see what happens with Chris back.
And Jesper can't bowl that bad 2 years running, so we're gonna be good. Because Jesper bowled like us, and he's not supposed to. Jesper's supposed to bowl like 300 every game.
Exactly.
And he didn't.
But
Jesper,
if you're
years,
watching, Jesper, this one's for you.
He kind of did. So if he figures out how to do that again, then we'll be golden, because we'll just put him in every game, and that's pretty much how it's gone previously. So.
Yeah, we're all right with that.
You're failing to remember this guy took you out in 2015 with a 300. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I took him out a couple of times in the Weber Cup. So it's okay.
Oh, okay. You did have a pretty good finish at the World Bowling Tour Finals this season. So speaking internationally, you lost to Tackett by a pin.
Yeah, and it was one of those weird deals because we were doing that single frame scoring.
The current frame scoring.
Yeah, and in those formats, it's kind of weird because it's like close games are like not close,
right?
And like games that are not close become close.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain, but basically, me and him were like almost the same, except I was the 1 pin behind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, usually, if you go into the 10 frame 1 pin behind, it's like, wow, game on, this could be interesting. Right. But with the way that scoring is, it doesn't really lend itself to like small turnarounds. Mm-hmm. You can turn around a big score, or everything kind of just stays the same, and that's kind of how it stayed. I think that that current frame scoring, from my mind, and as to say, Chris has bowled it as well, I think it's much better on one lane. when you go shot for shot.
Yeah.
I don't really like it on the 2 lanes, and like it just doesn't. I don't think it flows as well. I think it's much better when it's almost like a match play, like in
shot for
tennis,
shot,
and
yeah.
like he throws a blow, I throw a blow, back and forth.
Right.
I think on the 1
What
lane.
kind of tennis are you playing where people are throwing blows? What's going on there? What is that?
Let's be honest, I'm not playing a lot of tennis. But
Lateral movement doesn't allow for a lot of long rallies.
He's taking 5 steps
Yeah.
forward and coming back. What's your take on the current frame scoring?
On the single frame,
Yeah,
I
single
get
frame.
the simplicity of it, and I've come around on a little bit. I'm certainly a traditionalist,
Sure.
and so I like things historical purposes and things like that. But I do get for the speed of the game and for the simplicity of boxed frame scoring that kind of ties itself up and it's easier to follow. I get it. It artificially inflates scores. It makes things look like they're much higher scoring than they are, but it does have some different strategies with splits.
Sure, absolutely.
And whether you're trying to make them or not, and the bonus for making them, depending on where they fall, changes pretty considerably. So
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to watch. It was kind of like you said. The 10th frame wasn't. It didn't feel like the 10th frame anymore,
No.
right? Like it didn't have the build.
And it just felt like you don't. Like if you split in a regular game and you don't make it, it's like a pretty big punishment, but it's not really that big a punishment. Like so for example, like I always use the 4 count split as a pretty good gauge for that. There's no reason whatsoever to go for it.
Yeah.
Because like you get 14. Well, like
or 8 or 9.
yeah, like there's almost no difference. But if you but it's very easy. If you get 4 and you go for it, it's very easy to get like none. Like if you get it a little bit too far right,
Sure.
and then that frame's like a disaster. That's like you've had 3 opens.
Yep.
Like it almost feels like in that format.
Yeah,
so,
you can't. Need that.
So that part of it is a little awkward, and like I say, I just don't think it really lends itself to the 2 lane deal because like to me the hardest thing in bowling is to figure out the 2 lanes and connect the double, and that's worthless in that format. So there's no reason to bowl on 2 lanes. Like it just doesn't make any sense because a double's not worth anything. So
Heard it here first.
that's kind of how I see it anyway. I just it's just different. I think for the Weber Cup it makes a lot of sense because I think it makes games go down to a last shot more often.
Yeah.
But from a sport bowling point of view, I think it's ridiculous. But that's just me. Like I don't think
That's just still.
I just don't think that people who are in there watching the sport and want to watch for because they did one of the Asian Championships where they had it, and I just don't think the people who are watching there who are dedicating that much time of their day to go and watch it, like they're not going because I can go now because I know how to add up.
Right.
Like the people who are going to want to put that much time in know how to add up beforehand.
Exactly.
So
Good point.
that part of it, from me, from a sport point of view, I don't think it's as good. But I think from just like a purely like made for TV like event, I think it's cool. I think it could be kind of cool if we did it in the PBA league, where it's like it's not like 2 guys bowling. Like then it would because it really is like my frame.
Yep.
Yeah, it wouldn't. My lineups wouldn't matter so much, and the teamwork part of it wouldn't matter as much, and that would be the only drawback to it.
Sure.
It's literally whether you bowled the 5th and 10th or 1st and 6th
exactly
would make no difference.
No.
It's just 5 guys bowling, and
Yeah.
it becomes much more of a singles oriented thing versus trying
Yeah.
to get teamwork and guys bowling good
Right,
at the same
exactly.
time. It would change the dynamic of it.
But I just feel in those like specifically made for TV events, it comes down to being closer.
But if I was like the LAX and I keep looking for ways to improve my finish,
boy.
that might be a good way to go
Oh boy,
about
here
it.
we go.
So.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Before we get into the league, I do want to give, Stu mentioned that, he moved to Austin because of FloBowling. He holds a special place in our heart because he won the inaugural FloBowling PBA Fall Swing Tulsa Open. I think we have some photos of that. Yep, there he is. There he is.
And then I think there was a photo with you as well.
There is a photo with me. Do we have that photo?
There
it is. There it is. Look at that handsome lady over there.
And you look real skinny in that picture.
I know. I need
And
to.
that almost feels like that should be a profile picture for you.
I'm trying to put on a couple lbs, trying to get my squat up, but we're working on it. Anyway, enough about me. These people don't want to hear about me. So you won the inaugural FloBowling PBA Fall Swing Tulsa Open. We really got to work on that name. That's a mouthful.
Well, this year you won't have to say inaugural.
Okay, that's it. There you go.
That's
It's still a lot.
now it's going to be like the FloBowling Chicago
and it's a summer
Open
swing.
or whatever.
It's a summer
where
swing.
Is it? It's in Chicago, but
Aurora.
Aurora.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know where we were going with that. We're talking about Aurora now. But no, that was your second PBA title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome.
And I'd like to think that it was a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it was FloBowling, right?
We'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Right answer. So, Chris, you were in the PBA playoffs. Speaking of Kyle Troop, he was shit talking you then.
Oh yeah.
What do you look forward to in the playoffs? It's obviously the biggest payout of the season, right? But
I looked forward to bowling more than one game.
Yeah.
And
which I did not do.
Yeah.
After the first frame, he looked forward to Barry and Kyle, which unfortunately he did not do.
Yeah.
I could almost feel the heat coming from when I was sitting on my couch watching it.
Yeah. You have anything you want to expound upon that?
Oh no! You wanted that one in the ninth frame real bad.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity, despite I really didn't have. I had a terrible look on the right lane, and even on the left lane, I didn't have a great look. But he gave me an opportunity that I probably hadn't deserved up to that point. If I found a way to kind of solve the puzzle on the right lane, I could have stole a game.
And I'm pretty sure he'd have reminded Kyle about that.
It might have come up.
And your Weber, as your...
No, just till the end of time.
Okay. Just forever and always.
Yeah.
Kyle, if you're watching, again.
Yeah.
A lot of Kyle Troop in this episode.
I feel like Kyle has got kind of like... He's kind of got a little lippy these days.
It seems a little bit right now.
I mean, I do find it very funny when he gets like that way around Belmo. Because Belmo's like, literally, Kyle, I've won more majors than you've been on TV. Like, TV appearances, I have more majors than you have TV appearances. And then Kyle, I can't remember where it was he told him that. And this was before Belmo won the last two. And Kyle started adding it up. And he goes, can I count the PBA league? And Belmo goes, sure. And he goes, damn it, you're still ahead of me.
And they actually square off in the round of 16 coming up. We know how it finishes. We're not going to ruin it for you guys. But Belmo and Troop are one of the two matchups this Monday night. And then Prather and Doherty are the other matchups. But what Bayside, the playoffs are at Bayside, the league's at like what's Bayside for you guys?
Well, it's exciting. I mean, it's the most electric atmosphere. It's probably the closest thing the PBA Tour has to what the Weber Cup has created over time.
Yep.
Which is what makes that event so much fun to play. Is the crowd has always been good, and even to us, which they should have actually probably treated us much poorer than they did. But and Portland takes that to a whole different level. I mean, there's chanting going on the whole time and all, which actually becomes white noise. Everybody talks about what's crazy, how they concentrate through that. Well, constant noise is
right.
It's way easier than when they did a really good job. Like when I was watching anyway on the TV. That's what happens when you suck. You get to watch it. But when I was watching it, they did a much better job this time of like chanting through the whole time, because we bowled there so many times where they'd be like, Stu, 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 and then just to let go of it, it'd be like dead silence, and then you're just like, what just happened?
Right.
But they did a really good job this time of like they were cheering the whole way through the frame, and then it was like then it's no problem.
And that's what a lot of guys say. Like if it's constant noise, that's cool. If it's constant silence, that's cool. But it's when it's constantly silent and then somebody's cell phone goes off, or the other way around. If they're cheering and then right as you're ready, they stop.
It's basically unusual noises, because there's always noise in a bowling center. So pins dropping and things in the back is not a big deal, but a glass dropping is not something you ever hear in a regular time. And so you're it's just a reflex that you go, what was that? And and it's a momentary break. Same as when they're chanting, and then if they actually stop, and then all of a sudden you go, well, why'd they stop?
Yeah, what's going on?
And so it's happened that way too over time, a couple of times.
I mean, I'm very much on Bill's team. I think we need to do a better job as players of accepting when those things happen better than some of our fellow professionals have done. We've all been guilty in the past, but at the same time, it's just like some of the guys are just a little over the top. You know, like a guy sneezes, like that's going to happen. Yeah, it put you off. Yeah, but you don't have to like, you know, want to take the guy's unborn child.
Yeah.
Like, so you know, but I think that the PBA we've been trying a few different things. Like, it's hard because it's trying to find that happy medium. Because there's the idea of like running the music and stuff while we're bowling and stuff, but it's like, you know, you talk to one guy who thinks it's absolutely ridiculous that they got the music. So then, like, to me, I'm like, if we're gonna play the music, it's got to be a decent enough level. And then, like, one guy will be like, "Turn the music down, it's ridiculous." So then they end up turning it down a little bit. Well, then it doesn't make any difference. So then it's just annoying.
Yeah. Then you can hear everything over it anyway.
Because you can hear the music and you can hear the people. So then it's like, it hasn't drowned out anything. So it's like, I just feel like if we could, if we can make it like, and it's been much better this season, like with the venues we've gone to, but like with the days that it's more of an event, it's way less off-putting. Like when people are having a good time, like I think I was talking to Gilly about it, about when we were in the Wednesday night when we bowled in the World Series, when Tom Strobel had given all of the league people they give them free tickets to come in.
Right.
Yeah.
And like that one night, Duke and Walter Ray had started right by where all of those people were. Me and Dom was bowling with Duke. Like literally every time Duke hit the head pin, the entire place went crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and of course, it's amazing. Like those guys, how well they respond to that. It's just incredible. I mean, and this isn't to sound disrespectful, but like it's the same with like Carmen. Like when Carmen gets 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 50 people cheering for him, suddenly like he's averaging like 176, and then suddenly he bowls like a 220 from like nowhere. And it's just like, what just happened?
Energy,
and like
pure oxygen.
Yeah.
And like and that's no way comparing Walter and Duke in the situation, but those two, they suddenly like they just loosened up and. You know, it was like the good old days, and they were both like off to the races. I mean, I think they both bowled 250 the first game, and the place was going crazy.
Yeah.
And I was actually laughing with Bill because the next night Bill shot 300, and I'm like, just a day late and $1 short, eh, Bill? Because if you'd have shot 300 on the Wednesday night,
Right.
Oh my God, those people would have been going crazy in the crowd because everybody was there having a good time. They're having a drink. They're with their friends, and like it was a really clever idea by Tom.
And ironically, we had music going on that night.
Yeah.
It was one of the first times I can ever remember we had a background level of music that was actually high enough to be heard all the way through. It was almost like a pro-am level.
Oh, nice.
Background, and so it the cheering and all that. While you could hear the cheering, it wasn't like it was. It didn't distract people.
When you were 2 lanes away from it was pretty loud.
It was. I was a little further away.
But I haven't talked to anybody who doesn't like the atmosphere of Bayside. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like, do you guys want to see that? Would you love for every tour stop to be like that, or do you want kind of the focused, quiet that you know if you're bowling in a major?
Do you know? I honestly don't care what the reaction is as long as the people come and have a good time. If the people turn up and they want to come back and we get a good crowd in, I don't really care if they want to be quiet the whole time or if they want to cheer the whole time or whatever. But we just have to make it so that when people come, they have a good time and they want to spread the word and like, oh yeah, we went to the PBA stop, it was awesome. We watched Jason, or we watched Stu, or we watched Chris, or we watched these guys, and we had a really good time. And like afterwards, we got autographs, and oh yeah, I can't wait till they come back next year. That's whatever the scenario is. And in Bayside, that's everybody having a party and having a good time, and but quite equally, we bowl at Wayne Webb's place in Columbus. And they pack the place in there, and it isn't everybody screaming every shot. It's just people having a good time, and they respect the bowlers because it's a very special situation there. Because I mean, Wayne's a 20-time titleist. I mean, like how many of those are there? Like 15 guys who've got 20 titles, maybe.
Yeah.
And like how many of those guys are still alive? Like there isn't that many guys with 20 titles. And now this guy is in a bowling town. And he's got a bowling center named after him. Like, it almost can't get to be a better place than that for us to be at. Like to be in, because I mean, we bowled in Columbus in 3 or 4 different places, and every time I bowled there, like people have come out. Like when we used to be at,
it's a historic venue. It used to be at the Palace once upon a time.
And then the the smaller place where Jimmy Johnson did it. That was really good. I forget what that place is called, but the smaller place, the 32 lane place. Yeah, when we were in there, they packed in there. I remember that was one of my first years on tour. We bowled, and that was where Oscar took the extra shot. He thought he could practice in between when they went to the commercial break. So Oscar threw a shot in the thing, and it was like, oh. Because I guess he said to Kirk, can I throw a shot? And Kirk wasn't really listening to him. And Kirk goes, yeah. And then the next minute, Oscar's throwing a shot, and they're just like, what just happened? So that was like one of those lost in translation deals. It was when they did that, like, the pods, like the four, and then one dropped out or whatever. So that was kind of a weird deal. But like whenever we've done those things, it's always been like, like the people of Columbus have always come out and supported the bowlers.
Yeah.
It's a special segment called Down Memory Lane with Stu Williams that you just got to experience right there.
In Columbus.
In Columbus.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the league. Defending champ, Silver Lake Atom Splitters. You're on LAX. I think we got some pictures. There they are. There they are. There it is.
Which winning team is that?
Yeah, that's...
that's last year.
That's last year. They've won how many seasons in a row now?
No, not 2 in a row.
2 in a row?
Yeah, we've won 3 total.
Yeah.
And you were we got another one of you with your MVP. There it is. There it is. Yeah. Talking to Kimberly with MVP. So, what do you have to say to Stu with his about LAX this season?
Well, I mean, they always look great on paper. They're always a favorite. You got the best bowler in the world on your team. How could you be?
Stu, you're talking about Stu.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and Stu.
And Stu.
We actually have the 1 and 2, I would say, right now.
Yeah.
Oh, you have so who fills out your roster? It's Belmo, you, Buttriff.
Yeah. And then we stole one of their players.
Yep.
So we got Dick Allen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we
by being so bad last year, they got a top pick.
Yeah.
See what he did there? You think Chris is straight, but he's
I know.
He's got the digs.
No. He's like the Ric Flair of bowling. Dirtiest player in the game. And then we got Anthony Lavery Spa is making his debut.
Yes.
So,
and I believe Belmo called him the better looking of the Lavery Spars. Is that what he did?
Yeah.
I think when he got drafted, I think that's what he said.
He did say that, but I
did.
mean that's almost the poison chalice, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is.
Picking between those two.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
the better
both
looking one or the smart one. I don't know. You just kind of have to
the
take your
straight
pick.
swing.
And then Silver Lake, Atom Splitters, you guys, who's your roster? Who you got?
We came back with a combination. We have Doherty.
Yep.
Obviously, he's been with the team for quite a while now. Myself, and then the Giraffe, Jesper.
Yep.
And so it's always kind of weird because, like, Jacob's with them, and then the Weber Cup. We're gonna swap.
Yeah, you can swap them.
We're
You
gonna
send Jesper back to
we're gonna swap the Penguin for the Giraffe.
Yep.
And
awesome. That's fantastic.
And then we picked up 2 guys that have both been on the team before. AJ Johnson, who was on the team last year, and then DJ Archer, who played great for us a couple years before that.
So do you think is the strategy to kind of keep the chemistry together as much as possible?
For us, it's a lot about chemistry.
Yeah.
And so while there's guys that have had better seasons, maybe this year or that year, whatever, these guys, we all mesh to it.
Yeah.
We mesh well. We work well, and so we're still pretty happy with our team.
And LAX,
Well, we did the chemistry thing. It's overrated.
Okay. All right. So we'll see.
No, because we literally kept the same team, like for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Didn't work out so good.
Okay.
We came second once.
Maybe the chemistry wasn't as good as they thought.
Maybe that's what it was.
Interesting.
But and we can't.
But you saw the best singles player in the world.
Yeah, and the second best.
And the second best singles player.
Do you know
and Stu?
I've told them. So far this season, there hasn't been an event since the FloBowling when I won that Belmo and Jacob were both bowled, that one of them hasn't bowled for the title. So I told them PBA League, we're good to go.
Holy cow!
Because the only events that Jacob didn't lead were the ones where Belmo didn't turn up.
I told Jacob was the high seed and so he got the automatic spot for the U.S. For the Weber Cup team. I was super excited. I've been bowled with him twice now with Team USA. I was super excited to see him throw a double while I was on his team.
Yeah.
Instead of just on his pair, watching him strike every shot. So.
Yeah, I mean, the second time you bowled with him, you tried to bowl about the same as him.
I did, and that was not a good goal to have.
No, I mean, you both actually Jacob smoked you.
I don't even.
He's
know
doesn't.
that.
He's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's not how I remember
Smoked isn't.
So-
I wouldn't remember that either. I've had a couple of world championships that I don't remember either.
Yeah.
It's
One thing
convenient
about age
how
is
that-
selective memory comes into play a little more often.
Man, the older I get, the better I was.
Yeah.
Speaking of age, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention your Hall of Fame induction last year. I think we have some photos.
Nice.
That was this year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yes.
Oh no, you were
Last
last
year.
year.
2018.
It was last year.
Oh no,
Oh, there he is.
You can tell how
Yeah.
old he is. He was part of it this year as well, because you did the speech for Mika this
Oh,
year.
I introduced Mika.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
And I think we
Yeah.
have a couple more. I will say there you are with that. That was your induction class. And then I think we got one more for the whole group. There we go. I will say that I think I have to give you best dressed in that tux.
Well,
Ron has his vest and his bow tie. Walter Ray's in the back with a bow tie. But that tux, I really think
it would fit me better now than it did then.
Okay.
He's also significantly younger than everybody else in that picture.
Yeah, but I'm
Quite impressive.
it's still hard to get into that thing without being old. So
No, but that's what I'm saying.
It's
though.
just-
But it's
I definitely think that you win best dressed on that one.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You have 19 titles. What? 19? No.
Or 30, depending on what we're
Oh,
counting
I'm
as
sorry.
on these
Yes.
days. But
I thought you got to 20.
no, well, that one didn't count either. So
What's so we're throwing numbers around. What does 20 mean? to you?
22 is my number, actually. That's
Okay.
Marshall Holman's number.
I got you.
And so growing up, I watched Marshall. He
He's your
completely
guy.
charismatic guy. I love watching him play. So that would be a benchmark.
Yeah. Got it.
Those opportunities are coming.
You want to beat him, or you want to get
I'd like to at least get to that number.
222.
But 20, obviously, for whatever reason, round numbers mean what they mean. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 20 is a threshold that, as Stu said, very few people have really
Yep.
gotten to. It's fairly elite company up there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
Wayne wears a gold chain that's got a 20 on it.
Are you
No,
gonna, are you
Yeah,
gonna get,
Wayne is one of the. He is a guy that very few people understand how really good he was, because he was great in the same era that Marshall and Mark Roth and Earl Anthony were great.
Yeah, he doesn't get the
And
respect
he's
he
the other
deserves.
guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I came on tour, he those guys are basically all retired, and he was still out there. And all right, I'd heard the Green Machine. Then I started watching. I'm like, holy cow, this guy can do everything.
Yep.
He can hook it. He can throw it slow. He can throw it hard. Play straight. He can.
Yeah, you just missed him in that
I
era.
didn't
of
have
like-
any idea really how truly good he was, because he got overshadowed
Yep.
by.
I mean, I think he sort of falls into a little bit into the category, a little bit like Dell and Doug Kent, in that they're both fantastic as well. But they were in an era around like Weber and Walter Ray and some of the other guys, and it just
Parker,
they kind of
just got overshadowed by.
And then Wayne's got almost as many titles as Dell and Doug combined.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize like kind of how many
Yeah,
it is. It's
like-
like that's a lot.
He's got
Impressive
almost
careers,
as many
yeah.
as Marshall does, but he did a lot fewer shows.
Yeah.
Marshall made 1 million shows.
Yep.
But
But yeah, when you're talking 19, you want to get to 20. Like, that's an impressive career in a Hall of Fame. Like, so huge congratulations.
Well,
to you.
thank you.
I grew up watching you, so it's
another reminder how old I am.
It's
That's
well,
cool.
I'm gonna get
Thanks.
to the PBA
Thanks
50
for
tour
that.
here. I'm gonna end on the PBA 50 tour, but it's a treat for me getting to have you here. You're a treat too, because you're special.
Just a gift that keeps
special,
on giving.
Special to FloBowling, but you're 49.
I am.
Sorry to bring it up. But PBA 50 tour next year, is it something you want to jump right into? What are your thoughts with the 50 tour?
If I can stay competitive on the regular tour,
Yeah.
and it's my boys' senior year before they go to college, and if I'm out there for 3 or 4 months in a row again,
Yeah.
I don't know if I see myself going right from there and going, hey,
Yeah.
know what your last summer at home for? I don't really ever
Right.
see you much again. Have a good one. I'll catch up with you at Christmas.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just don't see
and
it
it's a pretty
happening.
grueling. I mean, Norm's doing it. He's doing all the regular tour and then the PBA 50 tour, and he mentions that he really has to manage his schedule because it's a lot.
I see the majors next year, but it kind of depends. I mean, I have one son that plays a lot of basketball and a lot of summer AAU stuff, and if he stays busy that way, I'll probably bowl the majors.
Yeah.
But it would be more pick and choose versus
Sure.
my whole career basically, if there's been a tournament, I showed up and bowled the tournament. And maybe the year after they go to school, to college, then that may be the way it goes. or they may have to wait until I become less and less viable on, on the other tour.
He says that now.
Right. What's your take on this?
I think Chris is one of the most competitive people I know, and if they're going to say that there's money to be had every week, I think he's probably going to go and take it. I think that's.
But he's family first.
No,
that's what it sounds like, and then
I completely get that, and it's a couple of days at a time.
Yeah.
See you in a couple of days once I've just made another TV show. So
I don't know.
I don't see him hanging out there and playing golf with all the old boys.
Yeah.
I see him more of in a dine and dash type of guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Come in, bowl an event. It was real. See you in a week.
Yeah.
Can see that happening.
Yeah. Walter,
I don't really recognize this Chris. Yeah, I'll just I
he's
just
playing
play it by ear.
Cool with
exactly.
the cameras.
I have not actually looked at it that close,
Sure.
to be honest, and so I don't know at the time.
But it was
and
kind
where
of
falls in
it
there,
was kind
but-
of like a shock to the system, really. This the way the tour came around this year, because we'd been in like a very much of a like everything was kind of like planned, and you knew kind of where you were going to be, and then suddenly and it was cool. Don't get me wrong, but suddenly 3 months out, they dropped this bombshell. Okay, cool. You're going to play every week from January until April.
Yeah, as
And
much
that
as I
changed.
love the change in formats and back to more of a tour and longer tournaments and all the things that I loved about the tour for the first 12 to 14 years, I'm in a different place in life now than I was when most of that happened. I was just talking about it with Linda today. It was brutal being back out on the road the entire time again. And when you had majors and majors and majors, there wasn't. I'm going to go out for a week or two and I'll come back home and just eat the extra expenses of traveling back and forth. But I was getting home on a regular basis before. There wasn't even windows to do it.
And especially when they put that the playoffs in the way it was, where there wasn't really anything that you'd bowled before that counted. Then suddenly there was a whole heap of the events that you might have had off, then you knew you couldn't really take off. Because you only have to look at the shows that have just gone, guys who bowl well all year, suddenly one match they were out.
Right.
Well, suddenly that bye looks kind of attractive. The less one game matches you have to survive for 100,000.
Take your
Pretty
swing
much.
at best of 3 over.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd rather have best of 5 or best of 7, but the one gamer is literally comes down to. Literally, your season is one shot.
There's an example. It worked out well for him after he took the break, but in hindsight, is Marshall Kent wondering whether he should have bowled a tournament in Lubbock because he ended up being the 10th seed. By showing up in Lubbock, he probably would have had enough points because the field wasn't that strong that week. A lot of people took that week off because of the international guys to have got to 8th. Then he would have had the week off. He wouldn't have lost to Jesper because he wouldn't have been bowling Jesper.
He bowled one of the better first round games and didn't get through.
Now, for the payout, it's like you said, your season.
Now he would no doubt argue that he wouldn't have had the season he had after that if he hadn't have had the 2 or 3 weeks off to do what he did. I'm just saying, hypothetically, for example, Darren Tang had to survive everything going perfectly for him on that Masters show
to get through
because he didn't bowl the first tournament because he went to the US trials.
Right.
Now, would he have been regretting that decision to go to the team trials if he'd have been he wasn't that far behind Jesper? I think he only had to enter to get enough points to have been around Jesper.
As it turned out.
That's why with a lot of that stuff, to me, there was never a question that I was going to miss an event because, as it turned out, I was nowhere near, so it didn't really matter whether I played any of them. But, how could you, look at the fact that you lost the chance for 100,000 by not going to a tournament?
Right.
And I've never been a skip event guy anyway, so that I'm not a manage. The best thing you could do to get fresh for the next tournament is bowl really good in the one before it. Because those weeks are easy. It's the one you're grinding. And so, it changed a lot of perspectives in a lot of different ways, and we didn't know exactly how it was all going to play out.
And now it's it's pretty much ramping up to do the same thing again after we get through. Pretty much after we get through the Weber Cup, it's going to be back at it again, and it's going to be interesting, some of those places, because like for me, I haven't bowled in almost any of those bowling centers that they're going to.
Because they're all up in the Northeast.
Because
we stopped bowling those extra frames up there.
Yeah, I mean, financially for me, when I was living on the West Coast, it just wasn't viable to bowl a tournament where where you have to come third to make any money. Like for the week, it's just very difficult to justify that. But
now you're Texan. Now you're Texan. You can go everywhere.
Well, it's certainly an improvement. I mean, you're both basically 4 in 2 weeks, and then you have the summer series on the back side of it. So it's going to be 3 full weeks of
exactly. So it's just figuring out how you want to go around that.
How you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like
for me, I think it's a little bit far for us to drive out there, because I mean it's a ways.
Well, Delaware's a hike.
Yeah. Sure. But I think the first one's in is it in North Carolina? I think so. It's like, it wouldn't be so bad if that first one was a little closer, and then you have to drive. You break it up to get to the furthest
It's like
point.
the old way, but we used to do it, and you just kind of go, well, you have to pencil it out. How much is it to fly from these and drive and all that, and most of the time you end up just having to bite the bullet and taking one long drive out and then one long drive back
and win.
I don't know what you're hearing from this, but it sounds like I just need to get to Dallas and get a ride.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, at least
what
I don't
Chris
have to worry
said.
about falling asleep.
Exactly what Chris
There won't
said.
be a lack of airtime going on in there.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, I think they could keep going. Like I said, they are professional commentators. But I think, alas, this episode of Going Brooklyn has come to an end. We had a couple running Brooklyns that we took, memory lane. I'm glad that we established that new segment. But thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you guys coming down. It's a blast. And good luck the rest of the season.
Thanks.
Much appreciated.
Bye, guys. Till next time.